Contraception, protection. There's a lot out there. Condoms, connies, rubbers, johnnies, big adult balloons.
And there's the pill, the once a day, the baby stopper.
There's LARCs, long-acting reversible contraceptives, the distance runners, the long players. Like the herald angels sing. That was terrible.
There's the oral or dental dam, or as I like to call it, the dam. I feel like a woman. No, that was bad. Terrible.
Not all forms of protection are the same. Contraception stops babies from being made, protection stops diseases from being spread. A condom does both. That's why it gets so much love. Mwah! That was weird.
So if you're ever thinking, do I need to use protection? You probably should.
Condoms or dental dams can protect you against sexually transmitted diseases or infections.
And contraceptives like the pill or long-acting reversible contraceptives like implants or IUDs prevent you from getting pregnant, like condoms.
When should you use protection? Here's the thing. Every time you have sex. There is an exception to this rule, but we'll bring that up later. You should use protection every time you have sex, not just if it's around or if you can be bothered, every time. Wrap it up, mates.
And it's not just P and V. It's not just eggplant emoji and taco emoji.
No way! It's also eggplant emoji and mouth emoji, taco emoji and mouth emoji, eggplant and eggplant, eggplant and peach, taco and taco, taco and mouth.
In my experience, same-sex sex was even harder to find out about protection and even harder to know where to go to find it.
People often presume that you only need protection for penetrative sex, but protection's also needed for most other sexual acts, because STIs or sexually transmitted infections can pass orally or anally as well.
It's less like, when do I need to use it, and more like, when do I not need to use it? Because unless you want to deal with an STI, wrap it up.
The best way is to protect yourself in more than one way. So for example, if you're a woman having sex with a man, even if you're on the pill, you should use a condom too.
Coming from a Polynesian home, I know that sex is not talked about a lot. Neither is contraception. None of that sort of stuff it's all still, for the most part, taboos. So I didn't even talk to my mother about sex until I was 18 and 19, sort of when I had grown up and talked to her as a grown-up about it. But I was fortunate enough to have friends whose mothers were very open about sexual health and who were always there for me in that way, because I know it can be hard in a Polynesian family to talk about things like sex and contraception. It's so awkward, and but you will be able to find that information through other parents, hopefully, and older friends, maybe.
I've got a theory that the self-service checkout at supermarkets, that they weren't put there just to make it shopping like more efficient for people. I reckon they were put there so that awkward teenagers wouldn't feel awkward when buying condoms.
Contraception is so important because there's a lot of different ways that you can get pregnant. There's the obvious, when the penis ejaculates sperm inside the vagina, and then the not so obvious, sperm on the hands, mouths, other things. And sperm really just have one job to do, and that's fertilise an egg, so you've got to be careful out there.
Some contraceptives affect people in different ways. Some people experience side effects, so finding the right one is really important.
Being a good Kiwi bloke, I've never spoken to anyone, talked to anyone, mentioned anything to anyone, or disclosed anything to anyone. As a result, I've been an idiot for most of my adult life, and it's been a rocky road. I always go to the internet. That's why I hope this will be on the internet, because it's a good place to go. It's private and it's not embarrassing. I maybe learnt what a condom was at school, and from there I just thought that was a good idea, and so far that's, I haven't had a kid yet that I know of, so that's positive, I think.
There's heaps of different types of contraceptives, but some are more effective than others. Now, the most effective form is if you get an IUD or an implant, and the next most effective is if you use the pill or you get an injection. But by far the least effective and the most unreliable is the pull-out method.
Wrap it up, mates.
Implants and IUDs are also known as LARCs, long-acting reversible contraception for girls, women, people with vaginas, and they last for up to 5 years. An IUD is inserted into your uterus, but they don't protect against STIs.
Or there's an injection that girls or people with vaginas can get every 12 weeks, but that doesn't protect from STIs either.
Then there's the pill, which you do have to take every day. There are lots of different options in terms of pills, so if you're considering it, you should talk to your doctor to figure out the best one for you. You can even just use the pill to skip periods.
And it's a good idea to keep using condoms, and you should never feel pressured to stop using them if you don't want to.
The one exception to the rule is if you're in a committed relationship with somebody that you trust, and you both had clear STI checks, then you could talk about not using condoms or an oral dental dam. But the thing is, if there's a chance that you might get pregnant, then you should be on some form of contraception.
There might come a time where you slip up, but just because you've had unprotected sex doesn't mean you're out of options.
You might have done everything right, but the condom just broke.
And if it happens to you, don't worry. Talk to your doctor or go to your family planning clinic. See, at family planning, if you're under 22, it's free.
You may need an STI test as well as emergency contraception.
If you can't get to the doctor, you can buy emergency contraception at the pharmacy over the counter, and there's no need to be embarrassed because a lot of us have been there before.
The emergency contraceptive pill is most effective if you use it straight after unprotected sex, but you can use it up to 3 days afterwards.
Something that's really important to know about the ECP is that it can be less effective if you weigh over 70 kilos. In that case, you can have a copper IUD inserted up to 5 days after you had sex to prevent pregnancy.
There's nothing embarrassing about using emergency contraception, and you don't have to go get it alone. Remember, there were 2 of you involved last night.
If you do have an unplanned pregnancy, you still have options. Abortion, adoption, and if you're Māori, whāngai, or keeping the baby, all of these options are available to you and they are entirely your decision to make.
There are 2 different types of termination available in New Zealand. One of them is a medical termination, and then there's a surgical termination. A medical termination involves taking a pill to end the pregnancy, and a surgical termination is a very safe, small surgical procedure. If you think that you might need one of these procedures, it's best if you come and see one of the doctors at family planning or your own family doctor.
When it came to contraception, I guess the biggest learning for me was through my friends. We talked about it, shared stories about it, but also I was quite lucky to have quite what I call new school parents, and so talking to them about sex, talking to them about contraception was totally cool.
So you're in the bedroom, things are getting real. You lean over, reach in the drawer, grab your old mate, tear it open. But how do you get it on? Why does it smell weird?
Okie dokie. First and foremost, make sure the condom is the right way up. The tip should be coming up from the centre of the ring. Proper penis, please. Lovely, thank you, Lizzie. Now, hold the tip and roll the condom down the penis. It's important you hold the tip so there's no air. Otherwise, it could pop. It's not going to make that sound, but it could pop. I think you can go now with the penis.
If you ever start to put on a condom the wrong way, make sure you start again in order to fully protect yourself.
I'm lucky or unlucky that my mum is a sexual health nurse, so it was a very, very open conversation in our household. Mum would deliver me condoms on a regular basis.
98% of the time, pregnancies can be prevented through using condoms correctly. But the thing is, you should also use a condom for oral sex because there's always a chance of getting an infection through oral contact with genitals.
If you are performing oral sex on a vulva, you can use a dental dam to protect both yourself and your partner from STIs.
And if you don't have a dental dam, you can always make one at home with some scissors and a condom. So you roll out the condom like so. Ta-da! Cut the tip and the rim, I think they call this. And then you cut it open, I suppose. I just usually slide it all the way through. Ta-da. Don't need those. And here we have an at-home masterclass dental dam.
Sometimes people avoid condoms because they think they can kill the mood. But if your penis gets a little bit shy, putting on its raincoat, you can still bring the sexy back. So wrap it up, mates.
I think people have this idea that if you don't use a condom, it feels better, which is definitely not necessarily the truth. But even if that was the truth, I just think the risks involved there are just, you know, if you're thinking about the number of people who have got, I don't know, a serious sexually transmitted infection or gotten pregnant, say, and they weren't perhaps prepared for that. You think of the number of those people where that happened literally so that people could have 10, 20 minutes of a good feeling, you know, like that just is such a risk to take.
So who's responsible for organising this sort of stuff? The answer's pretty simple. It's both of you.
Both of you.
All of the people involved in the event should also be responsible for making sure everything is safe.
You go home with someone and you like get all excited and nervous and you try and look for a condom for your wallet and it turns out you don't have one, then you got to go like across the road to the Caltex and you got to buy one, but then you spend like literally 2 hours like trying to get the courage to go up to the counter and buy it, and then by the time you get home she's just crashed out.
Sometimes you assume that the other person's got it covered in terms of the contraception and protection side of things, but it's really important to have a conversation about what you're using and to make sure that both of you are aware and comfortable and supportive about what you're going to do together.
I used to think it was just my responsibility to be on the pill, and I didn't talk to my partner about it. But it's really important to discuss options together.
You can get condoms from your doctor or family planning. And guess what? You will not be the first person to ask. So chill and don't worry. And don't think you're special either. Your doctor's given out a lot of them before.
When I was a teenager and I started thinking about using protection, I didn't go to a family planning or any of the people I should have. Me and my friend just had a bet and one of us had to go into the pharmacy and buy some condoms, and then we both had a packet of chocolate flavoured condoms that neither of us ever used. We tasted them and they were disgusting.
Thanks for the real sex talk, New Zealand On Air.